Welcome to video 2, AI Coding for Scientists and Researchers. Foundations is the title for this particular video. And overall, this is the second part of a series where we're covering how scientists and researchers can use AI in their work to become more efficient. And so in the last video, I talked a bit about the application that I made as an example for this video with roughly about an hour of AI coding. And now we're going to go into some of the elements that I think are important for understanding so that you can do something similar. Maybe not, maybe you want to make that same tool, or maybe you want to make something different. So we're going to talk about a few key pieces, I think, before you can jump in and actually start doing it, or something similar. So just really quickly, we're Team Ricochet. We work with national labs, doing software development as a digital agency. And so that's kind of the perspective that we're bringing to this in terms of, seeing people do different things, scientists and researchers. And, that's kind of how I am approaching the problems that we're solving. So the first main point for this video today is I think it's easy to get overwhelmed if you're not a software developer. You may, as a scientist, you may have done some things in Python, some light coding, or maybe even some advanced coding. And that's helpful. It's helpful to have put code on the screen and seen what it can do, but it's really not essential because the whole promise of AI right now, and for the most part, it certainly delivers on it, is that it will help you with anything you don't know. And it does get stuck on some things. There are some things that it's not so good at, but for the most part, if you're, don't understand some piece, you can just say, hey, I don't understand this. Explain it to me like a 5-year-old. And if you want to add something somewhere, you can say, hey, add this thing. I don't know where or how you'll do it, but this is what I want. And it will tell you if it can or can't do it. It'll do its best to solve the problem for you. So there certainly is a risk with not understanding every single piece. And we're going to get to that in this series. Like you may be adding some things to your code that if you put it in a repository, other people have access to, like API keys, which we'll talk about. But if this is just a tool that you're going to run on your computer to do something for you as a scientist, it's probably lower risk. And by the time you get to the end of this, you'll know how to change what you did if you made any mistakes. So it's a very low risk endeavor at this point. So, but there are a few things that you want to be mindful of. So next, don't be afraid to ask the AI to explain stuff, including if I'm saying things on the video. Like you can literally take the transcript from this video and dump it in the AI and say, what was Casey saying here? I didn't understand that. And it'll explain it because I'm not talking about anything top secret here. These are all things that an AI is perfectly capable of, patiently explaining over and over until you understand it. The other thing, and I mentioned this on the first video, AIs can get stuff wrong. They can make mistakes just like humans. And there's also the hallucination problem, which was definitely a bigger problem in the earlier days of AI, but it still can just make stuff up. So you always want to be double checking its work. You don't want to assume anything is 100%. I wouldn't assume that even with a person telling me something. So, when you get more familiar with this technology, and who knows, by the time you're watching this video, it may be some point in the future where this is even less of an issue. But, don't be afraid to tell it like, hey, you're wrong. And this is why I think so. And look at this. And if you have a good point, it'll say, yeah, you're right. I made a mistake and let me fix it. So I actually had a funny thing with a cursor, the AI editor that I'm going to show you in these videos, where it said it couldn't do something. And we got in a little argument and I had to go to the website and show it that its marketing said that it could do something. And then it said, oh, okay, you're right. I'll do it. And it actually did it. It got new features just from me showing it that. So that's kind of a weird problem to have, but that's how strange these technologies are. You will need to explain things, and if you can be patient, it's tempting to think that the AI is this all-knowing, entity that has like sentience, it can get lost in the weeds just like people can. So if you can break down with your technical capabilities as a scientific expert, and explain things, it's going to see your perspective, and that's a skill that is very appropriate in creating tools with AI. So on to the next point. I'm going to talk a little bit about my code editor and what we're going to be using in these videos. In the past, there were other things that people use, like people would just paste text into ChatGPT and get their code back and then paste that in their editor. People still do that. I actually often will still do that as the initial revision on something that I'm trying to develop. But now there are a series of tools. There are a number of options. But like I said, you may be watching this in the future, and I'm trying to make this series of videos, maybe not timeless, but not so temporary that I'm going to say that, something that is the current common hot tool now is going to be what it is in the future, because it probably won't be. But I use Cursor. There are a number of different alternatives to Cursor, including some agentic, which we'll talk about here, some agentic development tools. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. I like Cursor because it lets you look at the changes that the AI is making and then kind of let those into your code base. But you may find that you want to use a different tool. You may find that just pasting your code into ChatGPT is fine for you. It doesn't really matter. But Cursor is what we're going to use for these videos. One thing I like about Cursor is that if I'm having an error, I can paste the error into the editor and just say, here's the error I'm getting, or I can paste a screenshot of the data or, anything that I'm seeing, and it will then be able to read that screenshot and help me debug it based on what it's seeing in the screenshot. So that's pretty powerful. The other thing that you can do is you can tell the AI to do code changes. So it will offer, you may say, I want you to do this thing. It will come back with some results and say, hey, at least with Cursor, do you want me to add this into your file? Or here's what you need to do. And you can just say, no, I want you to do it for me. Or I still add please. You don't have to do please. It doesn't know you can't be rude to an AI. And we'll talk a little bit about the technology and what it actually is doing in a future video. But you just say, no, I want you to do it for me. And it'll go apply it to the code and tell you when it's ready. You save it and run it. And lastly, a little bit about agent mode. So you'll hear, especially more and more over time, agentic or agents, code editors. And that just means that instead of you doing all the changes and asking it specifically where to make a change, the agent can just spin around all the files and add all the stuff, and it can even do testing. It can run the code, make sure it works. In fact, my first experience with this was that I had it make a iOS desktop application for my Mac, and it wasn't compiling because you have to use Xcode with Apple when you do that. And it wasn't compiling, so I gave it access to the logs, and I said, I gave it the command to build the tool, and I said, you keep running it and fix it and check if it builds, and when it does, let me know. And it just went back and forth. It took like 10 minutes, and eventually it came back and said, okay, everything's building now. I was able to check the logs. We're good to go. So that's going to happen more and more as time goes on. You may choose to do that right now, as of July 2025. Claude Code is a new agentic software development tool. I've used it. It can be great. It can also hit roadblocks that are really hard to overcome. For simple things, you can just do what I'm going to show you in these videos, though. If you want to experiment with other stuff, you can do that. So next up, I do want to show you actually my code editor. So let's go look at that. So this is Cursor, and this is just a code editor, and I'm going to show you some cool stuff with this. But I actually saved a prompt, and what this prompt is that I created, this is going to create all the features of all the stuff that I showed you in the first video. So with this prompt, it's just a human readable explanation of all the various features. I can come into Cursor and Command K will generate for a particular section. And I'm not sure what version of Cursor this is. Let's see, this is version 1.2.4. So by the time you're seeing this in the future, it may be, a much later version with a different interface. But when I type this, I can just go down the bottom, hit enter, and it's just going to get to work. It's like magic. It's going to start implementing all the things that I want in here. And I did tell it that I want it to be in Python. So it's just going to go through, and it may take 10, 15 minutes to actually generate all the capabilities in here. Now, I actually already finished that and let it run in here. So this was the results of everything running here. Oops. And I need to come accept it. So this is what it generated. I can either reject or accept it. In this case, it's just one big thing. So I'm going to accept that. So in this case, we have a lot of code here. And if you're not a developer, this may be kind of overwhelming. But it might be interesting for you to go through here and just say, you can select this and do Command L, and that opens it up over here. And you can say, what does this do? So it's just going to explain it for you. You can just go through and ask anything in here, but I can go run this Python script and it may have a bug. If it has a bug, I can then take that error and paste it in here and say, this is the bug I'm getting when I try to run it. And that's pretty powerful. So if I want to add a new feature, I can just select the whole thing and say, add a feature that will, I don't know, export all publications as a PDF. And what it's going to do is it may ask me some follow-up questions, but it's going to make the change to the code that will do that. So it's generating here. It may take a little bit to actually generate all the code, but once it's done, we'll see that it has inserted code in different places that will give me that functionality. And then I can go test it and see if it actually works, which, it may or may not. I may have to workshop it and give it some errors, and we may have a few rounds where it has to adjust the code in order to get it to actually run. But in here I see one of two changes. So it's made two changes in the file so far. It's now going to explain everything that it's done. And I'm going to, if I click over here, I see, okay, it's added this code block. I can choose to accept that. And then, oh, it's added more. So the third one, it's added this PDF capability here. It added another piece here, and it added some new, it imported some new stuff to get that functionality in the Python code. Again, you don't have to understand all this stuff. It helps, but we're just trying to get you familiar with getting comfortable making, actually coding an application and seeing if it works or not. So that's all the purpose for this particular video. In the next video, we're going to dive a little bit further into some additional points that you kind of want to keep in mind as you're developing this stuff. But that's kind of a quick high-level overview. If you have any questions, again, feel free to leave a comment in the video. We do review all those. Feel free to come to our office hours. Folks at National Labs and researchers, you can come to the office hours at any time. You can email us. Go to teamricochet.com to get our contact information. And I look forward to sharing more with you on the subsequent video.